In this lesson, let's learn about configuring a server before promoting it a domain controller. After Windows is installed on a server, a feature called Auto Admin Logon may be enabled. To make the server become a domain controller, we need to disable Auto Admin Logon, then set administrator password. After that, we will disable IP version 6, set the server name, set IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway. To move the page file to a different drive, we need to configure drive letters and configure the page file. Finally, we will sum up the lesson with the keynotes. To stop Windows from logging on automatically with an admin account every time we start Windows, we need to create this registry key at this registry path and set its value to 0. In order to do that, we need to run this PowerShell command. Now let's verify the result. Registry editor, click yes. And now we open the path. Let's copy the path here and paste it in the registry editor. Then hit enter. As you can see, the auto admin logon key has set to the value of 0, which will prevent Windows from logging on automatically with an admin account each time we start Windows. Now let's set the local administrator password. Please note that the local administrator will become the domain administrator after the server is promoted to be a domain controller. To do that, we need to right-click on the Windows button here and click on the Computer Management. Then click on the Local Users and Group and click on the Users. Here we right-click on the administrator account and set password. Click Proceed. Type in the new password and then type in the new password again in the confirm password box and click OK. That's it. The administrator account has been set with the new password. If our server is using only IP version 4, we should disable IP version 6 binding on the adapters of the server. To do that, we need to run these 3 commands together. So the first command is to get the IP version 6 component binding to all the network adapters of the server, and it sends the result to the second command to filter only the adapters that have IP version 6 enabled. And after that, it sends the result to the third command to disable the IP version 6 components on these adapters. Let's run the first 2 commands to verify which adapters has IP version 6 enabled. As you can see, IP version 6 is enabled on the adapter Ethernet 1 and Ethernet 0. Now let's disable IP version 6 on those adapters by running all 3 commands together. Now let's verify the results. As you can see, there is no IP version 6 component enabled on any adapters. Here is the list of parameters that we will configure for our server. First of all, we are given the server with the operating system Windows Server 2019 Data Center desktop experience. We need to configure the name of the server as cpvdc01, and we need to set the IP address for the server is 10.0.0.10 with the subnet mask of /23. Then we need to configure the default gateway is 10.0.0.2. The server has the C drive that is installed with the operating system of 60 GB. We need to configure the B drive with the size of 20 GB, and after that we need to configure the page file with the size of 12 GB and move it from C drive to B drive. We also need to configure the D drive to store the Active Directory database ntds.dit with the size of 20 GB. That's it. Let's do it. We can use this PowerShell script to change the server name. First of all, we will get the current server name and store it in the variable server name. After that, we will check if the current server name not equal gpvdc01, then we will rename the server with the new name gpvdc01, and then we restart the server for the change to text effect. Let's run the PowerShell script and click on the Run selection. And that's it. We have just changed the server to the new name gpvdc01. Let's set the IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, and DNS server on the network adapter of the server. To do that, we need to figure out which network adapter we need to set these parameters by using these commands. So the first command is to get the information of all network adapters, and it sends the result to the second command to filter only the interfaces that are the Ethernet interfaces. And it will send the result to the third command to select only the interface alias, IP address, prefix length, and prefix origin. Let's select these commands and then we will run the selection. As you can see, we need to set the IP address at 10.0.0.10 and the subnet mask is /23. So from the result, we figure out that Ethernet 1 currently set by DHCP is the right interface because it has the IP address in the same subnet that we plan to set the IP manually. So let's put the interface alias Ethernet 1 in the line 6 so we can run the second commands. As you can see, the second command is to set the IP address on the interface, and in this case it is Ethernet 1 with the IP address 10.0.0.10 with the subnet mask 23 and the default gateway is 10.0.0.2. Let's select the commands and run it to set the IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway. The third command is to set the DNS server on the interface, and in this case it is Ethernet 1 with the address 10.0.0.10. So let's run the third command. Now let's verify our configuration. As you can see, the Ethernet 1 now set with the IP 10.0.0.10 with the subnet mask /23, and it is set manually. Now we need to add D drive and B drive to this server. To do that, we need to right-click on the Windows button and then click on Computer Management, then click on Disk Management. Let's expand this window and scroll down. As you can see, the CD-ROM drive has been set as the D drive. Let's change it to Z drive. Here we click change and select Z and click OK and click yes. Now let's set this one as the D drive. Click new simple volume, click next, then click next. And here we type in the volume label as data and make sure perform a quick format is selected, then click next and click finish. Now let's set this to as B drive. Here click next and we change this to B drive and click next and we type in the volume label as a batch file and make sure perform a quick format is selected, then click next, click finish. And that's it, we have just added the D drive and B drive to this server. Let's talk about batch file. As you may know, Windows operating system must load its applications from hard drive into the memory or RAM for processing. When the memory gets full, the OS will move some application into the batch file.sys, which is a hidden file usually stored in C drive. This process is called batching. The batch file is loaded when the OS starts and discarded when the OS stops. Batch file can be set with minimum and maximum size, which allow the batch file to expand as more application loaded. To expand the batch file, the OS must allocate the free blocks in the drive, which may not be the next blocks to the current batch file, causing this fragmentation. To allow the batch file to accommodate the content of the memory and avoid this fragmentation, it is the best practice to move batch file to another drive and set the minimum and the maximum of the batch file equal to 1.5 times the size of the server memory. So if this memory is 8 GB, we should set the minimum and the maximum of the batch file size equal to 12 GB, which is 1.5 times of 8 GB. Let's set the batch file size equal to 1.5 times of the server memory using this PowerShell script. First of all, we need to get the install RAM size. And here is the physical memory in byte. Let's convert it into megabyte. And here is the RAM size in megabyte. Next, we need to check if the batch file is managed by the operating system, and if yes, set it to manual. Now the current page file is no longer managed by the operating system. We can delete it, so we can create a new one in B drive. Before creating the page file in B drive, we need to set the page file size variable equal to 1.5 times of the RAM size. Now we need to set the page file size in B drive and set the initial and the maximum size equal to the page file size, which is 1.5 times of the RAM size. Let's verify the page file setting. As you can see, the page file is in B drive and the initial size and the maximum size is 12 GB. Now let's verify our server configuration by running this PowerShell script. As you can see, the server name is GPVDC01 and we have one CPU and the CPU is 1.9 GHz and the operating system is Windows 2019 and the server memory is 8 GB and the page file is in P drive and the page file size is 12 GB. This is the end of this lesson. Please read the keynotes.